Good afternoon, everyone. Hope all is well. Back again with this live session today, and today we have a very special guest with us who has got his own podcast, his own coaching consultancy firm, who's going to be coming here and talking about what he does. He's got a estate agency podcast, a lunchtime podcast, and also coach. It's going to be super amazing. I'm super excited about having Stephen Brown coming on here and discussing everything about what he does in his professional life and how he can share the knowledge today in terms of helping others getting motivated. So we've got Stephen here. Let's get him online.
Hello.
That was easy.
There you go.
How are you doing?
I'm very well. How are you?
Good. All is well. Thank you so much for coming on this live, joining me today in terms of joining me in the mission, actually, to share the knowledge and to spread the positivity. So thank you so much for coming on here, Stephen.
Thank you for inviting me. I'm very
Pleasure. Super. So before we move on, Stephen, if you can introduce yourself as to who you are and what exactly is it that you do. I've given a bit of introduction where you're into consultancy, you're into your own podcast as well, you're a coach, everything together. So go ahead and please go give your introduction.
Okay, so my name's Stephen Brown. My background was I was an estate agent for about 25 years. I've been in the property industry for over 32. I think I started off as an investment negotiator, working for an agency in central London.
Okay.
I got offered two jobs. I either got offered a job at £2,500 or one at £3,500. So as an 18-year-old, I decided to take the £3,500 one. And then when I got there, I actually ended up getting paid £4,000. So it shows how young I am today at that amount of money. That was my first wages.
Wow.
So I was there a couple of years. I wasn't progressing very far, but I was doing more business, more deals, more investment deals, and the senior investment person there. So I saw an advert in the Estates Gazette, and they were looking for an investment negotiator, and they were offering £50,000 a year. So I thought, right, that's great, I'll apply. And I did get an interview, but he said and I got the job, but not at £50,000 a year. He just said to me, Stephen, I like the way you've applied for it and asked for it, so we'll create a job for you. So I started doing investments there.
Before we get into the sort of the deep end of what you've done in your life and everything, I just want to take you a few years back into your childhood, teenage years, when we're growing up and we're kids and we're teenagers, and we see a lot of careers in front of us that inspire us to become one of them, whether it's architecture, whether it's a state agency, whether it's an investment broker, whether it's an actor, a musician. We see so many careers. What was your aspiration when you were growing up that, okay, you know what, this is what I'm going to do? Obviously, it changes on the course of life. But when you were growing up as a kid, what is it that you were motivated to do?
Okay, I loved auctions. So I used to buy and sell stuff from auctions, and then take them to car boot sales.
Okay.
So I would have loved to have been an auctioneer. One of my favourite programs is watching Bargain Hunt and Flog It, because I just love to see what prices go.
What people can buy, right?
Yeah, exactly. Homes Under the Hammer. I really enjoy watching the auction and the buzz of that. So initially, I actually wanted to go to university, and I wanted to become do with property there. And because my grades were so bad, or my estimations were so bad, I didn't bother studying. So that's why I ended up going to work. And I thoroughly enjoyed the business of going to work.
Do you think in today's day and age, kids and teenagers should give that importance to their studies at school, at university? Or do you think if they have that motivation of going out there and achieving it in the real world, the professional world, the business world, do you think they should concentrate on that, or get those good grades, get the university degree, and then start?
Look, it's education is
I mean,
very
we're talking
education is very
here like I went to university and you didn't, and
yeah.
but we're both into property, we're both selling, we're both doing great stuff. But I just want to know your take on it, whether kids should look at university as one of the main goals in life so that they can progress into professional life, or if you're ready for professional life, go ahead and do it.
Go for it. You know, I know so many people that left school at 15, 16, 17, 18 year olds and have been incredibly successful. And they're so there's an argument for both. I mean, education, don't get me wrong, is incredibly important. And you need that. But actually, you only learn when you go out in business, and it's putting in practice what you learn. And some of the stuff you get taught at school is just theory. And actually, in school, they should teach you, you know, what
Experience.
business is all about and what the world is all about, because it is very, very different. Can I ask
Exactly.
you, do you have kids?
Of course, three of them.
So when you had your first kid, did you have a clue what you were doing?
When I had my first kid, I mean, yes, I was into the property brokering world, but I just started, like I was maybe 2 years into it.
Okay, but I
So
mean,
at that point, it was like,
when your child was born, okay, did you have a clue what you were doing? Okay, you've got all of a sudden baby's born, put in front of you, and think, "Oh my good God, what am I doing here?" You've got absolutely no idea.
of course.
You
I
don't
mean,
you don't get
it
to
doesn't come
be a
to you
parent.
unless you hold the baby in your hand.
Yeah. So you may go to antenatal classes, but the real thing is when you come home, the baby comes home, lying next to you, and they're breathing, and you're thinking, well, they stop breathing. Are they alive? Aren't they alive? By the time you have the third one, then the first two were crying. The third one, you just leave in a room because you know what it's like.
Of course.
And it's no different. You know,
And let me tell you, Steve, you know, the third one is more experienced than the first two, because she's got the experience of all four of us, you know. Whereas my son, if you see him, he's really, I mean, he's experienced, but the fact is that he only has his parents' experience. He doesn't have the other two kids' experience, which the third one has. But I see a difference in each of their growing up and how their experiences have shaped them up. I mean, obviously, my third one is only little. She's only 3. But the fact is, I can see her today at the age of 3 and to where my other two kids were at the age of 3. It's totally different. Totally.
well, my youngest teaches me how to do PowerPoint presentations and put
There you go.
together.
There you go.
20 years ago, I didn't have a clue, and I still don't have a clue. That's where I need their help with the practical skills. But yeah, coming back, look,
So you started at the age of 18. You got into your first job. Was it difficult for you?
Yeah, because it was an incredibly challenging market at the time.
And education at that point was really important as well, right? Because people used to actually see your CVs and what you've been educated in, rather than asking you the question, "Oh, Stephen, what's your experience? How many jobs have you had?"
Well,
You know.
I was doing correspondence course at the time to be a charter surveyor. So I was actually working during the day and studying in the evening. And that was very hard. And this is a prime example, actually. I failed my first 2 attempts to become a charter surveyor because it was all theory. And I couldn't get my head around the theory. When I finally passed on the 3rd attempt, and I was going to give up at that time, I then flew through part 2, part 3, because it was all practical. So I was scoring 100% on those because it was really easy. I was doing it day in, day out. But
You remind me of my driving license test. I failed it 3 times on the theory. Practical, first time, done it.
I know, and that's the thing. So it's crazy. But I actually ended up being made redundant from that job. And then I ended up doing some bits and pieces. I had my own business for a year or so, and then
was it tough to take? Was it tough to take in when you were made redundant, or when you? I mean, when you were broken the news that, Stephen, we don't need you anymore. You know, how did you take that in?
Because I'd seen they got rid of loads of other people, and actually it was the day before 2 years. Okay, so I was sat down at 8 o'clock in the morning in the boardroom studying to become a chartered surveyor. But my dad, so my dad was my inspiration. So my dad was in hospital for the first 23 years of my life before he died. And he used to act on behalf of liquidators, disposing of company assets and property assets. And he would come to me and he would say, Stephen, who should I sell this to? And I would say, give it to that agent or give it to that agent. So when they made me redundant, he said, well, why don't you run your own office? So I opened up an office above a baker's in East Finchley. Sadly, he passed away a year later, and then I went into partnership with 2 or 3 other people, and I got promised the earth, and it didn't materialise, and it didn't happen. And I ended up, one of my clients at the time said to me, have you ever thought about being an estate agent? So I said, not really, but I do like selling. And he put me in touch with one of his friends, and I went there and I got on very well. And he said to me, Stephen, I would love to give you a job, but you're going to qualify in 3 months' time as a chartered surveyor, and then you're going to leave me. So 3 weeks later, I hadn't found anything, and he hadn't found anyone, and I went along for a job, and he gave me the job, and I was there for 20 years. I didn't sell a property for the first 9 months. My confidence was complete at a loss. My excuse why I didn't sell a property for the first 9 months was that property prices at the time I was based in Maida Vale, so people who bought properties for 100,000 couldn't sell them.
How far back are we going in time? I mean, what, 10 years, 15 years?
30 years. Okay, 30 years ago. So
wow.
people couldn't. So there was loads of negative equity.
So we're talking what, 1990s, sort of.
Yeah, 1990.
Coming, just going into the recession, coming out of the recession, something like that.
Yeah. So it's incredibly challenging. So people couldn't buy, couldn't sell properties. They bought them for 100. They were having to sell them for 60,000. And you're all about property development, aren't you? So
well, everything.
Okay. So what was really interesting was there was a guy there, a developer, and I remember his name, Richard Withy, and he single-handedly pulled the Maida Vale property market up. And I was giving surveyors nightmares because the prices were achieving were his price for his properties. They couldn't value them up at that level. But I'm saying, look, I've got 3 or 4 people that want to buy it. Surely that tells you. So he would buy these cheap properties, refurbish them, and we got buyers for them. And we did incredibly well. But going back, so first 9 months I didn't sell anything. I had a nice boss, fortunately, he didn't kick me out. And then 14 months later, it clicked. And I ended up being branch manager. 4 years.
What sort of changed between the 9 and the 14 months? Did you grab the opportunity by the neck and shake it and you're like, come on, you gotta do it?
I became smarter, so it's finding out, right, who wanted to buy a property at that time and really focus and help them buy a property. So I would work with people that needed to buy. I worked with motivated sellers. I matched the 2, and I ended up being number 2 in the group. So I was doing about £170,000 in fees, about 20 odd years ago. So I don't know what that would be now if that was with property prices at 100,000.
1.7, 17 million maybe.
That'd be amazing. But
I mean, Maida Vale prices, for sure they've gone up. I mean, St.
Yeah.
John's Wood, Maida Vale, all that whole area. I mean, with all these fabulous double basement houses coming along, it's just picked up the market completely.
Okay, so that would be, I would have to do 20 sales now to do that, or 10 sales to do that.
Or maybe one.
Yeah, maybe one. You're right. So I ended up doing, I don't know, 60, 70, 80 sales a year to get there. Maybe the average fee was a couple of £1,000 at that time. If the average fee is about 10, 20,000. So if I was doing, say, 60 deals now and the average fee was 10,000, maybe 600,000. So
exactly.
And then it clicked, and then I got made one of the directors, and then I looked after all the systems and processes of the business and all the training of the. So we ended up.
So the operations part, basically, getting into operations, sort of training other estate agents and showing them how to do it. How was that experience? I mean, normally, okay, you're selling, you're going to viewings, you're meeting clients, but then now you're at the back of the office trying to train people to do what you did and how you achieved your confidence. How was it?
Loved it. I absolutely love coaching. I love helping people. I love adding value, and I love making a difference. And to me, that's it. That's what, that's what it's all about. It's how can you add value? How can you help that person be a better version of themselves? How can I generate more revenue for their business, for them as an agent? And it's working with them and coaching them and getting the
But did
best
you
out.
do it simultaneously as well? You did your agency work and you did the training work together, or you completely left it and you...
No, so I didn't have to sell anymore. However, when the recession hit again, so 2007, 2008, I had to go back on the floor. So
Okay.
I used to drive my colleagues mad because I ended up selling more than them, and I was taking commission out of their pocket. But you had you had a family. You've got to do what's best for your family.
You're like you're like the shark within
Well,
within the company.
in fact, they gave me a certificate because we had a system where you weren't allowed to take anybody else's applicants if they hadn't been spoken to. But if they hadn't been spoken to after 10 days, you could nick their applicants. So I was very smart about who the ones I would deal with. I just wanted to deal with people that would buy, not the people that would, look and see 25, or they weren't in a position to sell, to buy a property. So I would just work with the serious people who wanted to buy. And then I would watch all my colleagues, and when they were out of date by one day, I would nick them. So they gave me a certificate, chief applicant nicker, and it was in my office. I was very proud of that one.
Just to motivate your colleagues, did you ever split your commissions with them just for being nice, or no? You kept it to yourself.
It's not about being nice. So it was very cutthroat, and actually, agency in those days now, because I work with lots of agents, I work with and I coach 200 to 300 agents nationwide throughout the UK at the moment. So now I get to see the good, the bad, and the incredibly ugly side of a estate agent, and it is very, very scary. So for me now, it's helping agents get more market appraisals, get more instructions, get higher fees. How to be a master in what they do, so how to be elite. Estate agency is very easy. It's about 4 disciplines, believe it or not. Prospecting.
Go and tell me what it is.
Okay, so it's about prospecting, listing, negotiating, and selling. Okay. So if you don't prospect, you're not going to have anything to list. If you're lousy at listing, you're not going to have anything to sell. And if you can't sell, God help us all, you might as well shut up shop and go home. And so let me ask you a question and see if we can demonstrate this.
Sure.
Okay. So do you own your own home?
Not at the moment, no.
Okay. Have you?
Yes.
Okay. Did you buy it through an estate agent?
All those years ago, yes.
Okay.
Actually, no. It was the guy used to do mortgage brokering, but we bought it cash. But he was one of my father's friend in London, and at that time I was not into estate agency when we bought the house. So it was more of a contact base, and he helped us out with getting the property. So in effect, yeah, estate agent, mortgage broker, whatever you want to call it.
Okay. So the estate agent you bought through, did you hear from them in the years that you owned that property?
Never.
So you went into witness protection. So can I ask you what you did to go into witness protection that they didn't want to call you?
No, I mean, I wouldn't say it was into witness protection. I mean, they did not bother calling afterwards. Like, would you want to sell your property or whatever?
Okay, so did you do works to that property?
Yes, we did extensions. We did lofts, side extensions, back extensions, all that kind of stuff.
So would you be curious to know what the value was of that property?
Well, we sold it, so we sold it at the right value. I mean, in 10 years' time, we doubled our money.
If they had kept in constant contact with you, would you have given them the instruction? You're more likely to.
Possibly. I mean, if they got the right value for it.
Yeah, but because they never contacted you, you may have forgot which agent they were. So it's teaching agents to have a proper stay in touch policy with their clients. So when you do come to sell, you're going to come to sell through me at the right fee. And it's about, I want you to be a raving fan. I want to give you the most exceptional customer experience. So whoever's watching this, whatever you do, whenever walk of life, Your job is to create raving fans that absolutely love you. That's your job. That's what you're looking to do. And if you can create those raving fans, they're going to help you in whatever you need.
Of course.
But you've got to be adding value and making a difference.
Absolutely. I mean, totally get that. Really. I mean, when it comes to prospecting for myself, the way I work, I was just having a conversation with someone today, this morning, and they were like, "Oh, we love your work. And how do you go out and get these properties on board and all that kind of stuff?" And I tell them that my whole work is social media. Everything I do is social media. I don't advertise myself on Zoopla and Rightmove. Everything I sell is through emails, through WhatsApps, through social media, word of mouth. That's the essence of my business. I mean, sort of taking a different turn to how we sell properties in the UK, not using the mainstream portals, but then using the mainstream social media platforms, which people are more on today rather than searching for properties on Zoopla and Rightmove. You know, because you're on social media constantly and you're clicking, and you may come to something, you know, depending on what you follow. So that's how I prospect clients, if you put it that way.
At the moment, where it makes a massive difference is it is about asking questions and making a difference, and that makes you stand out. But you're spot on about social media. I mean, it's such an easy way to get your name out and your brand out really,
Of course.
really quickly. And if you're using Facebook and you're doing Facebook Lives, you know, you can target the audience that you specifically want to target. And if you're up against an established business, you become incredibly familiar by putting all these messages out. And actually, it's a very inexpensive way of getting your name out there, getting your message out there, putting educational content out there that's going to make a difference and that's going to help people. And what you're doing,
Absolutely.
is exceptional.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Appreciate it. You know, I started these live sessions way before during lockdown, part one. And I was like, you know, people pay so much for just for example, property training courses, right? There's so many training courses out there. You know that, Stephen. I mean, every Tom, Dick, and Harry gets up, does one flip, and thinks he knows it, and he will start his own property course, and that's it. You know, we're there, we're on YouTube, we're everywhere, blah blah blah. But what people don't realize is, okay, yes, you use their ways of buying property, flipping property, but then there's education that goes within it, that whether it's motivational, whether it's positiveness, whether it's negative, whatever it is, you've got to have all those, because sitting on the other side of the grass, you will think that, oh, that's so damn easy, I can do it. But when you get on it and you want to go and do your first project, you get to know that material, builders, planning, re-gutting the property, having old wirings in there, all that kind of stuff. When it hits the roof, you're like, whoa, that guy didn't tell me about all of this stuff. He just showed me the nice color picture, you know, bad property, done it up good, sold it. You never know about the headache. So this is what I thought, you know, not just with property, but all different kinds of professionals that are out there, whether it, like I mentioned earlier, whether it's an actor, doctor, lawyer, all these kind of things. And people are thinking these days to change their careers because of what's going on, you know, whether they were an estate agent before, whether they were a musician, an entertainer, whatever it is, they're changing the course of their career. And this is why I started this, you know, so that whatever you need help in, you just search it on your Instagram and maybe my video might come up and it might help you. So that was the thought behind
That's
doing
great,
these live
and I've been doing exactly the same thing.
Yes,
So,
and I want to talk about this. You do your podcast, you do your property podcast, and you do like a lunchtime special podcast. Tell me more about it. How did you get into it, and what do you do in them? What do you teach people?
So again, it came about in lockdown because my work suddenly, the tap started dripping, stopped dripping. There was no work. There was loads of webinars which were great, but they were helping business owners. And what I wanted to do was help people that were on furlough. So I just started getting estate agents that had been very successful in their business, because success leaves clues.
Of
Okay,
course.
so I wanted to help people. So I would get letting agents. I would get estate agents. I would get motivational speakers on there. I've had people from America. I've had people from Australia on there. And the aim is, and I had this conversation yesterday with somebody, he said, so you must do it because you just want to get new clients. And I said, actually, I'm doing it because I want to help people and I want them to learn and I want them to be better. And everybody's very different. So the first people will take action and implement it. They're the best people, the action takers. There'll be other people that will just watch it and not do anything. So it doesn't matter in a way if I'm working with two estate agents next door, because one will do something and one won't. So prospecting. So I don't know if you've ever come across a book called Fanatical Prospecting by a guy called Jeb Blunt, American guy.
Okay.
So it's the best prospecting book I've ever read. It will apply to any business. So anybody watching this, whether now or on replay, have a look at this book. You don't need to buy it. You can subscribe to the guy's podcast for nothing called The Sales Gravy. And, you're getting loads of top tips on sales for nothing.
But have you realized something, Stephen, that every time you go and see these podcasts from people like these, like, for example, you have Gary Vee, you have that other guy, Cardone, and everyone, don't you think their ways of selling are exactly the same?
Yeah, of course they are. But what they're doing is, if you take Gary Vee, jab, 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 hook.
Yeah.
So what he's doing is he's helping people, and then he say, right, I've got a book out, buy my book, and they'll all buy his book. But because he's given so much value, it's like it's all about now. It's about you being the digital mayor of your area. So what you're doing is you're giving value and you're helping people who want to get into property development. Okay.
Of course.
And you're helping them and educate them about all the things that they need to do that's going to make a difference. And actually, you made a point earlier. So what you see on Instagram, all the lovely, lovely pictures, aren't the truth.
So many of them.
Okay?
So many of them.
And actually, that's the worst thing about social media, apart from the keyboard warriors on there, is that actually half the things that you see aren't true. But if you're helping people and you're educating them, and then they start and go ahead and they, do a property development, and then they think, oh, I remember what they said. They said, do this, do that, do this, do that, do that. And go, wow, yeah, actually, that person was spot on. His advice was great. You know what? I'm going to reach out to him because maybe I want to do a joint venture with that person. And maybe they're looking for a JV. And then you've created an opportunity for yourself to do that. But social media works out there for every single business, and everybody should be using it. And in my opinion, it's adding value, doing videos. You've got to be comfortable getting uncomfortable.
Exactly.
One of the lessons that I learned Jeb Blunt ignored me 9 times, okay, because I was desperate to get him on my podcast. Okay, so one of the things, and I thought, am I allowed to swear on this? I know it's
Go ahead, do whatever you want.
Okay, so one of the thought is, right, is he full of bullshit? This is somebody who's written a book that tells you how to prospect, but you try and get him and sell him something and he tells you where to go. But I persevered and persevered and persevered. And then eventually, after the 9 months, how to get somebody there. And in the end, managed to get him on. And the first question I asked him is, why are you on? He said, Stephen, because you asked. Okay, so how good are you at asking for what you want?
Exactly.
There's another book I've just been highly recommended.
I had the same. I don't know if you've heard about David Meltzer.
No, don't know David Meltzer.
Same again, motivational speaker, books, all that kind of stuff, and he's got like a following of about 400,000 people on his. He's a big icon in the US. And again, I asked him quite a few times, and then he gave me only 10 minutes of his time. Normally I do them for half an hour, whatever. Right now we're doing it for more than half an hour. And he said the same thing, that you kept asking, and I had to ask him about 15 times. And he was like, no, Murtaza, come on my live and ask me the questions. No, Murtaza, come on my podcast and do with this. I was like, no, this is not happening. If we want to do it, we're going to do it on my podcast, and we got to do it that way. And in the end, he came up and he said, you know what, let's do it. It's fine. Perfect. So got him on. But yes, I totally get your point. You know, persistence, whatever it is, whether it's property, whether it's career, whether it's your life, personal life, business life, whatever it is, keep persisting and you will get to where you want. Stephen, we've got a question, and this is actually a question from one of my colleagues that works with me. He's asked whether have you ever tried developing yourself, like property development?
Okay, so the answer to your question is no. I did have a couple of buy-to-let investments, which regrettably I sold. I do wish I bought the whole of Maida Vale when it was at £60,000 30 years ago, but I didn't.
I mean, if Maida Vale was at £60,000, what would have Mayfair been at? What, maybe 200,000, 300,000?
Yes.
Wow.
So, but look, would I advise people to do it? Yes. You know, do I have regrets? Of course I do, but that's in the past. I haven't done it. People watching this, you know, if you can get the finance now to do it, would I do it? Yes. Would I rather have my money in the bank? Definitely not now. You know, you will get a better return on your investment if you find the right development, if you find the right site, if you do the correct research, if you get, you know, exactly everything that you were saying about. You know, one of the things that I would look at now, we've got the buy to let effectively, you've got a stamp duty holiday. So, you know, if you're looking to increase your portfolio to an empire or a property kingdom or whatever you want to call it, you know, now's the chance to do that. Interest rates are the lowest they've ever been. With lettings, obviously, you've got loads and loads of legislation. I think there's over 330 different parts of legislation. Don't ask me to go through all of them.
It's okay, I won't.
Because I'll bore everyone. But for me, you know, again, I'm going to say this. Actually, if you are a landlord and you've got a letting portfolio, use an estate agent. Don't self-manage it, because if you do self-manage it, there are so many fines. You know, if you don't have a gas safety certificate,
gas, EPC, electric, you know, the rent guide that you have to give, the DPS that you have to do. I mean, just to get a tenant into your door, you have to go through so many things.
Yeah.
Now, once the tenant is in your door and living in your property, then the hard work starts. You know,
100%.
This is not working, that is not working, this is falling down, oh, the ceiling's leaking. So it's like you mentioned, it's best to always leave the job to the professionals. I know it costs a bit more, but the fact is your job will get done without any headache.
What's really interesting is there was a recent survey done, and I think it was 400,000 landlords that were asked. And actually, if you break it down to, and I think 48% self-manage it themselves, so they don't even use estate agents, which was quite a lot, I thought. And what I found interesting was if you break it down, you know, and I don't know what the average rent is, but if you break it down on a daily basis, it may be £5-10 a day to have your property managed by an expert.
Exactly.
Giving you.
But people don't calculate that, right? People calculate on the whole over sum. 8%. Oh God, I'm not gonna pay 8% to an estate agent. But they don't realize you would break down your insurance cost on a daily basis, but you will not bring down. This is exactly. And you know what? I was talking to this about when a couple of my friends wanted to start investing into property just now after lockdown and everything. And they're mainly based into Amazon selling, all of them, and two of them made quite a bit of fortune over lockdown selling. You know, everyone who was in the digital selling place, they made quite a big one. And they came up and they said that, okay, we want to buy this property, and you know, what's your fee for it? I was like, okay, this is what my fee is, whatever it is. And when do you get paid? I said, when you complete on the deal, that's it. That's how we get paid. But during the process, they had to pay the lawyer's fee in advance to check the legal packs because they were going to buy it from the auction. They had to pay the auction deposit because they were going to buy from the auction. They had to pay for a surveyor to come and check the property out before they actually go and bid for it. So they paid for all those things. And at the time they did the deal, I said, now you see how estate agents get paid? This is how estate agents get paid. After doing all of this stuff for you, at the end is when we get paid, even though we provide the service from the very start. But they don't realize that. I mean, owners, whether it's buyers, whether it's sellers, whether it's landlords, whoever it is, they don't realize that, these guys work their bloody asses off and yet get paid at the end of a deal. Whether, I mean, there are other estate agents that you call them buying agents, I think, and they charge a nominal fee at the very start. But even that, I think it's not right, because what if you don't find someone the property and you've got their fee, and it causes a really bad sort of synergy if the deal doesn't happen. If the deal happens, perfect, amazing. But
look, you're 100%. And when we were able to go to the gym, I was in the gym and there was two estate agents talking, and they left, and somebody said, estate agents are a joke. All they do is they put a property on Rightmove and that's it. And I said to the person, do you really believe that? And he said, yes. So I said, have you got 5 minutes? And regrettably for them, they said yes. And then I went through every single thing an estate agent does. And they said, okay, now I realise why the investment in their services is 2% or whatever they charge. But I don't think estate agents educate people what they do. So for me, if I'm selling my property, I want a skilled negotiator that's going to get as much money in my pocket for my biggest tax-free asset than anybody else. Okay, so I don't want a cheap fee. I want an agent who's going to put more money in my pocket.
exactly.
I want the most skilled negotiator out there. That's what I want looking after me.
Absolutely.
And I don't think enough people, enough agents demonstrate their negotiating skills. Only downwards. So
that is why social media is there, right? You put in your effort. You got to put in. I mean, the amount of people that ask me, Murtaza, you put in so much work into your social media. You're on TikTok, you're on Instagram, you're on LinkedIn, you're on Facebook. What do you get out of it? How many properties do you sell out of it? I said, even if I sell one, it's not about selling that one. It's about making you aware of what I'm doing in terms of selling your property, or if you're a buyer, how am I getting you attracted into that property? So, it's just a variation of different things. And that is why I think social media is so good, because if your vendor, if your client, if your buyer, if your landlord is following you on Instagram or LinkedIn or whatever platform it is, they can see that you're putting in the effort. Whether it's posting that property once a week, whether it's posting that property twice a week or every day, they see the effort that you're going through and you're putting that in. Of course, I'm not on Zoopla and Rightmove, so I don't have that advantage over other high street agents the way they do it. But the fact is, even through social media, maybe I might not be selling 10 properties like them in one month, but my way of working is going to be the future way of working. And by the time you capitalize on that, I would have already reached the end of that. So I think that's where the whole variation in social media and getting to know your client and showing them what you do sort of lies in. But everyone has their own take. I mean, not all the estate agents in the UK are on social media.
They've got a fear of going in front of a camera. They have.
But this is what I don't understand. You don't have to go in front of the camera. You can just post pictures. You can do videos of where you are, what you're doing. I went through a phase where I wanted to be in front of the camera every single day. I myself got bored of it. Literally.
Yeah.
And I was like, why am I doing this to myself? If I am bored, what about my followers who are seeing my stories or seeing what I'm doing? They must be bored too. And that's why I just got out of it. And I was like, you know what? Now I'm going to differentiate into how I want to be seen on social media and how I want to be. Yes, okay, you're giving property updates and you're giving that, but how many people are going to stick through your property update?
Yeah.
How many people are going to stick through even this live session, for example? Let's say 100 people, 200 people view it. How many people are going to stick out for the whole 45 minutes, 50 minutes that we are doing it for? Maybe one, maybe 10. But the fact is that those 10 or that one person knows about me, knows about you. And that's what social media is about. It's not just about cold selling, but it's about brand awareness. It's about increasing value of someone who's watching this. And that's how I see it. So it's social media for me an important tool for anyone who's selling whatever you're selling. Get on here and do it, whether it's a video, whether it's a photo, whatever you're doing, just do it. But it's been so good talking to you. I mean, getting all that knowledge from 30 years ago, what the property market was like in London. I wasn't even here. I mean, I was only 5 years old, somewhere in the world.
Born, were you?
Sorry?
You weren't even born then.
No, I was, because I'm 36 now, so I was. But somewhere in the world, I don't know where I was, but it's good to know how the property values have changed over 30 years only, from where 60,000 to where multi-million pound mansions in St. John's Wood or Maida Vale even, it's one of the prime areas of London today. I don't know back in the days how prime it was, but today it's like, yep, I want to live in St. John's Wood. I want to live in Maida Vale. I mean, the whole part of it, Swiss Cottage, you've got Little Venice, everything around there has shot up, really shot up. And it's good to see that.
No, lovely place it was. Really
Super. Stephen, but before you go, I ask this to all my guests that come on here. We've had a good, positive property sort of a session today, and I've had it after quite some time. I mean, like I mentioned, I do it with different professionals, so But what positive advice would you like to share with the world today? Whether it's a young guy growing up and he's seeing property as his aspiration, inspiration to start his career, whether it's developing, whether it's estate agency brokering, whether it's investment brokering, what advice would you like to share with them so that they can take that on board and move forward in life and achieve their dream?
Okay. There is so much free content out there. Learn. Okay. You can go onto YouTube, you can go onto Instagram, you can go and listen to podcasts, and success leaves clues. So whatever industry you want to go to, find out who the most successful person that you believe is that in that industry, and ask, and go and have that conversation. Ask, get out of your comfort zone. Have a growth mindset. Okay. There are so many amazing opportunities that you've got out there in life, and ultimately it's down to you. It's your choice, and you can make it happen. That's in your control. So yes, it's really challenging what's going on with COVID, and it's very sad, and a lot of people, and all the hospitality and the people that are out of work. Okay, sadly we can't control that, but we can control our own actions, and we're the master of our own destiny.
Absolutely.
So if you want something, go and make it happen. Go and ask, and make rejection your best friend. Okay, because you will be rejected.
So true. You are so true in saying that if you do not make rejection your best friend, you'd be left somewhere else in life. That is why, I mean, me and rejection, it's like we walk hand in hand, literally hand in hand. Because I know that you go to 10 people, like you mentioned, 9 people will reject you. Maybe the 10th one does as well, but the 11th one that comes on will possibly accept it. So yeah, you mentioned it perfectly well, that make rejection your best friend. Absolutely. And I might use that quotation. I might tag you in there.
you're very welcome to. But look, just go out, enjoy it, make the most of every day, because we really don't know what's going to happen tomorrow. But just enjoy yourself, have loads of fun, ask great questions, because if you don't ask, you don't get.
Absolutely.
And that's it. Have a growth mindset. But there is so much content out there to help you. And the other thing I would say is, you look at the top businessmen. In fact, you look at Edison and the light bulb. It took him 1,000 attempts to get there. Okay, just try. Just do it. Get comfortable being uncomfortable. Get out your comfort zone. Do things that you wouldn't necessarily do. You will make mistakes. I call them discoveries. I don't call them mistakes. So move on. Okay, don't make the same discovery twice, because then you're in trouble. Okay,
or otherwise you might be on Discovery Channel.
Exactly. But there's so many opportunities out there for you. Of course. And if you really want it, just go and do it. Go and ask for it. And there's a great book to read about asking. It's called The Aladdin Factor, written by a guy called Jack Canfield. So he wrote Chicken Soup. Great book, all about asking. And anybody watching this, go onto Amazon. I'm not on any commission whatsoever. It's just a really good book, and will help people. So it's an exceptional read. But thank you so much for your time.
Not at all, Stephen. And once this lockdown is over, let's meet up. Let's go for a coffee. Discuss more business, potential business. Let's see what we can do together.
Look forward to it. Have a lovely Friday and a great
You
weekend.
too. Enjoy your weekend. Take care.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye-bye. Bye. So that was Stephen Brown, London-based podcaster, property podcaster. Real great insight on how he moved on in life to do what he is doing today. Of course, related to property, but do check out the live. And if you want any advice in terms of coaching yourself in property or any property sort of related knowledge, do hit him up. I'm sure Stephen will help you out in that. Thank you to Stephen for joining me. Thank you to all the viewers that tuned in, and I shall see you again soon. Take care. Bye-bye.